I used to think that high ticket offers were the best way to go because you sell one client, it takes you the same amount of effort to sell 10 clients, and if they're high ticket, you get to scale a lot faster. And that was my thinking when I started out. And I've been running a development agency the past 2.5 years. I started out at a really I would consider like for what I was doing and for my experience level, very high ticket. Um, I really didn't consider there are pros and cons to both sides. And it was actually a fallacy. And I wanted to discuss because I think I've had some conversations with people who are considering, and depending on what you do, you will be doing high or low ticket services and items and things like that. The thing that I learned, my biggest lesson when it comes to these like high or low ticket things is if you sell high ticket, your sales cycles are proportionally longer. So what that effectively means is when you tell me that you sell high ticket, it usually means your sales cycles will be longer. Now, this is not, it's not a foolproof, like that's just a rule of thumb, right? And so you can sell high ticket and have a very fast sales cycle, but that comes down to like your sales tactics, right? Are you able to correctly implement sales pressure, like buy pressure, time, uh, oh, this offer expires in 2 days. Are you willing to do these kinds of things? And that is not, when you're beginning, you don't have all these things in mind. But when you sell lower ticket things, your sales cycles are naturally faster. And that allows you to make more iterations in a smaller period of time. And that was actually a big lesson for me. After I started high ticket, I realized that the discussions that I would have would go on for way longer because people take longer to invest larger sums of money. And so I then actually moved to lower ticket things. Now, if you go too low ticket, sure, your sales cycles might be fast, but you're also going to start working with really poor quality clients, and that is also not where you want to be. And that is horrendous because these low quality clients, like they'll ask you, oh, what am I really getting for those $50 I'm spending with you? Like am I going to get everything that I want and things like that? And they will start bugging you too much, and that's just low quality clients you want to avoid because you also will struggle to provide the best service for them, right? Because they're always unhappy and you have to do so much for so little money. And that becomes unfeasible for you as well, right? At some point, you have to be able to do something that you think is worth it relative to your time. But just do bear in mind that when you go for higher ticket, you have you will take longer to do the same number of reps as somebody who's selling lower ticket. I learned this because I watched a friend of mine who was doing much lower ticket things. And I thought, oh, I mean, it'll probably go better for me because I'm selling high ticket. I'll be able to like scale to larger revenue faster. What I didn't realize is it would take me so much longer to do my first 10 deals and him so much, he would do those first 10 deals so much faster. And you learn like the lessons you were learning in those first few deals are extremely valuable. And I didn't realize that until kind of later on. And that's a lesson I probably would keep in mind because I know that I used to always want to push for higher ticket when I was starting out. And I was thinking, how can I, like get this, push this value, push this number up. But, extrapolate this further. And let's say you want to do enterprise deals. Enterprise deals are huge. I run a development agency, right? So if I get a deal with Google, that's amazing. That's great. But just consider what the implications of those deals are. They take months and months to negotiate. You can be negotiating enterprise deals for 12, 18 months, sometimes even longer than that. It can take years to close a deal. And when you close that deal, you get especially in the context of enterprise, you get paid on 90 days sales cycle, 90 days payment terms. So that means Google will ask you for 50 developers. You have to pay those 50 developers for 3 months upfront before you even think about getting a penny. Like it doesn't work, right? And imagine it takes you 18 months to negotiate one contract. Great, that contract's profitable. Now you got to do that 10 more times. How long will it take you to do your first 10 deals? It'll take you a really long time. And that's a consideration I didn't have when I started out. And I have reflected on that since many times. And if I want to start something new now, the same way that like when I started Dev Launch, I was basically open to taking a lower price for the first couple people because it allows me to shorten my sales cycle because people have to think about it less because it's less of a commitment. And that may not always be what you want because more committed clients are high quality, but just think about the reps that you can get, right? higher ticket will typically that will affect your sales cycle. There are ways around it, but you just have to keep that in consideration. That's not something I really didn't think about enough when I started out. And it's a question I don't think people ask themselves enough. They just kind of look at, they just go for something high or low ticket, and they usually just have a very one-sided thesis about why one is better than the other. So, low ticket is better because it's easier to sell, or high ticket is better because you make more money. The reality is it's neither. It's just both of them have pros and cons, and you have to think about it. Yeah, sure, lower ticket is easier to sell, but it's also a lot less scalable, right? To get, you have to sell so many more people to get to 30, 40, 50, 60 grand a month. Whereas with higher ticket offers, that's a handful of clients, but you have to get in, your first couple of reps will take super long. It's a bit like if you think about a bicycle. You have gears on a bicycle. The lower gears are easier to push, but you can't go super fast on them, right? You're gonna be pedaling super quickly, and it just doesn't move the bike that much. The higher gears, you can pedal, you do one rotation and the bike moves a lot, but it is so much harder to start in the higher gear. If you've ever been pedaling uphill, you will not start in the highest gear because you won't be able to push the bike, right? So that, I think, it's a nice metaphor to think about higher and low ticket offers like that. It's an important consideration when you start out, and something I didn't think about enough. So I was having a conversation about that earlier with someone, and so I thought I'd share some thoughts on that and some reflections about how I thought about that. But yeah, today I have I'm just focused on working through fulfillment stuff, and outside of that, some business development things that I'm working on are what are fundamentally the people who I need on my team to be able to move the business forward. How do I'm starting to think about how I'm getting the people who are better than me at this thing to move the business forward. And I think that's turning out to be a really, really good decision. If you hire the right players, you don't need to be worried about the money and things like that. It's just about putting the right people in the right place at the right time, and bringing them together is a big one. Being able to get people to resonate with the mission and actually creating culture is a huge deal of that. But yeah, so I'm thinking a little bit about, particularly I'm working a lot on lead generation these days, thinking about how to go about that effectively. So yeah, that's the plan. Otherwise, pretty normal day. Excited to be, I'm headed out later tonight with my girlfriend to a nice bar here in Singapore that I haven't been to in a while, and I miss. One of my favorites, downtown near the kind of Bay Area with a really nice view. So that'll be fun, but nothing too crazy going on.